Hey, this is Star Thinker with the Valentine Goose Channel. I think I'm live. Not live, but I'm making a video. So this is my explanation video to the reaction video to the clue video. It's so rude. Um, I just wanted to make some notes and some things that people were talking about. Uh, some clarifications. I'm writing down notes because I got the video up, and it's funny. There were some things people talked about and questioned me on, and I can't remember where the questions were, if they were in the comments. So I'm just going to make this video real quick, explanation video. First of all, 855 is a made-up number. Uh, the length of the video is made up. Um, and I heard someone say the way I talk and like my lack of concentration. And someone said, "Oh, if you watch his videos, that's just the way he is." Well, let me explain something about that. I work alone. I'm in the basement of a 3-story building, and I work alone at nights. And if I do interact with somebody, it's usually along the line of, "Hey, I guess your robot's not working. What have you tried so far? And we'll try this next." So it's shop talk. And during the day, that shift change, the guy comes in. I'm like, "Hey, nothing's down right now. Everything's up and working. See you later." So I literally don't have conversations with people. I go home and I sleep. If I'm babysitting the kids, my conversations with kids are usually like, "Why are you guys always fighting? Why can't you get along?" So that's the conversation I have with the 5-year-old and the 7-year-old. If my daughter's home, because I live with my daughter, it's usually like, "What do you want to eat? What's for dinner? I'm going to go lay back down." We just don't have conversations. Because this is my one daughter that I have nothing in common with. And I know that's terrible, but um, at least my other daughter, we talk about treasure hunts and life and stuff, and my sons, we talk about stuff. But like, if I start talking treasure hunts to her, she's like, "I don't care, I don't want to know." Or any of my interests. And so I just literally for years, and I'm talking 5 or 6 years, I can't recall the last time I sat down face to face with someone and had a conversation. These videos are the closest things I do. In fact, if I have like 6 different channels, and these channels I did as therapy, to practice talking basically and formulating thoughts. One of my channels is all movie reviews, and I did that because I realized that after I watch a movie, I have no one to talk to about the movie I just saw. I have no one to chat with. I do have friends online, but when you chat in a chat room, it's like not the same. You type in 1 or 2 word responses to questions, and usually if I'm on my phone, it's going to be short anyway, because I hate tap typing. So I don't really consider those. We don't get into deep philosophical things, or we don't talk about things I've done in my life. And I don't consider those real conversations. And plus, I'm not using my voice, and I'm not inflecting, and I'm not doing those kind of things. So yeah, so literally, these conversations I'm having with my camera is literally it. I'll go home, and I know today I'm babysitting, and I'll be like, "Hey, why do you watch these YouTube videos, and what's in here?" And of course, I can't talk things with a 5-year-old. And like I said, my daughter will come home, and we'll talk about what to make for dinner, and usually that's it. um, I sleep twice. I sleep 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening, so that kind of limits my time with the family. And my sons, they got newborns and stuff there. They're hardly coming over. When they do come over, it's usually as a group. So there's 12 people in the room, and I can't really hold a conversation that way. It's just listening to everyone talking. So yeah, I don't have conversations with people, and I have a lot to say. So I get off on tangents, and I start talking about myself and things like that. So yeah. And to put on top of that, trying to do two things at one time. And if you're having a conversation but you're also trying to type a book, it's almost impossible because you're trying to concentrate on what goes into the book as opposed to what your conversation is. And that's what was happening because I was trying to talk in Morse code while having the conversation, and my brain just kept like locking up, and I had to sit there, and that's why there's these long pauses where I'm like, and I used the long pauses because that's when I would bite my pen and tap myself. I just think that's the best misdirection. I don't know. It was fun doing that, but that's why it took so many takes. So I would do the take, and then I would sit down, and I'm meticulous. I watch it, and I would write down my dots and dashes, and I would get. It was always like this one spot. That would come out as gibberish. I'm like, I didn't space this right, or sometimes I'd be down off camera, like I'd look down, and I realized, they didn't see the pen come up to my mouth because I was out of frame. So I had to practice like staying in frame, and it really did take about probably a good 15 takes, and that's why it was so time consuming, because I had to do the take, and then I'd have to watch it and write down the code to see if I was even close. And I think the last time I did it, there was still an extra letter in there, and at that point I was like, screw it, I'm posting this one. So if you did get an extra letter, I didn't do it 2 or 3 times. I got the right thing once, and there was one extra letter, and it was in a weird spot, and I was like, screw it, I'm leaving it. So yeah, it really did take a long, and that's why when I'm demonstrating on the whiteboard and doing stuff, it's so distracting, and it's because I said so many things in so many takes, and I was trying to, the stuff I had written down was kind of a script, so I would follow the same script as close as I could every time, but I would just get lost. And after about the second take, I had a big sheet of paper, you didn't see it, but with the code written out, and that's why I had a pen in each hand, because as I was tapping with my other hand, I was checking off the letters, and that's what I had to do because I couldn't concentrate enough to say, okay, like the first couple of takes, it was hard to say, okay, I'm on these couple of letters, but did I do this one already, or did I do this one already? And it was not fun. But I was trying to do it in one take, and I ended up doing it in 3, and I don't know, it was just crazy. But yeah, so the combination of not having conversations with people and trying to do 2 things at one time. And there's a third thing, I don't know if I want to get into it, but it was 2001. In fact, it happened on 9/11. I had spent probably 2 weeks completely unconscious, and then for the next 3 weeks I'd lost my short-term memory. So like every time, I don't know if it was a time thing or when I slept, but apparently I would wake up and be like, why am I in the hospital? Why am I here? And I have to question this. I want to know answer. Where's my wife? What's going on? And after about 2 or 3 weeks, I started to remember a little bit, and I can still remember waking up and going, where am I? What am I doing? And then it took me like another month to recover from that. And I don't know if I ever fully recovered because, like I said, that affected my short-term memory. I can remember lots of things, but there's still sometimes, and it's not so much you walk into a room and forget why you walk into a room. It's like memory issues are like, when I worked, my last job, I worked for 14 years there, and there was times I'd be in the grocery store and my boss would walk up to me and I couldn't remember her name. And, if you can't remember someone's name after 14 years, that would just like be lost on me. And so that's always worrisome, especially if you've had something go on with your brain at one time. So sometimes I wonder if those long pauses and stuff are just me trying to remember what I was going to do next, even though I had a script written out. And I got notes now, that's why I'm looking down. And yes, I'm going to answer some of these questions. Yes, I do have 2 computers, but one I shut off several months ago and I've never turned back on. And the one I shut off was my web server. And the only reason I had a web server, every once in a while I'd post a picture I want someone to see, and I didn't want to mess with picture sharing program, so I would just post it on my own web server and give them the web URL. And then I had games on it, and those games, some of them I can't even play anymore because they were Java games, and there's Flash games, and that's going away soon. But I finally put those on a thumb drive so I could play them whenever I want. And I turned it off. I turned it off mainly because my daughter was complaining about the electric bill, and I said, well, I'll shut off everything I don't really use. So I shut off my web server, and that was a laptop that was 8 years old running Windows NT. So I mean, it was ancient anyway. So I shut that off. And in the video, I know someone was talking about the thing with the slots in it. Yes, that was a monitor, and that monitor faces away because my desk has two sides, and it faces away, and that's where that laptop was. And all that did was run my web server. And I would occasionally use it to download certain things that, you need a VPN for. But anyway, I never shared, so I don't think I'm breaking the law. But anyway, that's, so that's out of the picture. I haven't used that in months and months. The other one, here at work, we have these microcomputers, and they're only about this big. They're just little tiny computers because some of our locations, like, they only need to look at one web page to do their job. So we didn't want to put a full-size computer out there. And these are like the machining computers. So we got these micro machines, and one day I was out in the plant and I saw one in the dumpster. I'm like, this is an asset. They're not supposed to throw. So I took it out of the dumpster with the intention of finding out where it came from and try to figure out who threw it in the dumpster. And when I got back in here, I realized it was the same brand, but it wasn't the same model that we use. It was like a completely different model, completely different configuration. And so I'm looking at it, and I open it up, and on the inside there was a sticker that said property of Mercy Hospital. And I was like, so someone brought, because it's not just a dumpster, it's a technology dumpster. It's where we throw all our printers and old computers and old technology, because that gets recycled. And so I was like, oh, someone must have brought this in, because people did it all, because you can't get rid of a monitor, so people bring them in from home and throw them in our technology dumpster, and it becomes our problem. So I think that's what happened, was someone got this computer and brought it in. So I thought, well, it's a dumpster computer. And so I brought it home, and there was a lot of issues with it, but they were issues, I think, just caused by the software. So I completely wiped it. I put, there's a free version of Windows 10 that you can't really do much with. But I thought, well, I'm just going to put this free version of Windows 10 on here and just use it, because I have a TV, but it's not a smart TV. And so I put this little microcomputer behind my TV, and it runs Hulu and Netflix. And if I ever had to, I can check my email or whatever on it, watch YouTube videos. So I don't really use it to do anything. And so yes, it is a dumpster computer that someone threw away, because the way it was set up, it wasn't working at all. And but wiping it, putting proper drivers and stuff on it, yeah, it worked. It works well enough. And it's an older computer too. It's about 5 years old. So yeah, it does its purpose, and at least it's got Windows 10. And with the free version of Windows 10, you can't turn off updates, so it's constantly being updated. So I'm good that way. But yeah, it's a dumpster computer. The next thing are the dice, and this is the funniest thing. I only vaguely remember taking a couple of dice, and on all the sides I made 5. So like on the 3 I added 2 pips to make 5, and on the 1 I added 4 to make 5. And I had like all the sides, I think I had all the sides as 5 except for the 6 side. And I can't remember why I did that, but I remember I did that to a couple dice. And I didn't even notice that when I set the dice up. So it's just freaking hilarious that people were talking about, they caught that some of these dice had 5s on 2 sides, and it was obvious that they were drawn on. and I didn't notice that at all while setting that up. And that's just something, I don't know, I can't remember if I was playing a prank on somebody or I wanted to do 5-to-1 odds on something, but it was just something I did a long, long time ago, and I just, I can only barely remember fixing the dice, and, and to have someone catch that, it was just so hilarious. I also want to point out there is a convention for making dice. So the opposite sides always add up to 7, and then there's a convention for, and it's, I think it's like just an American invention because Europe does it different, Asia does it different. But like to the right of the 1 should be the 2 and 5, and the 2 should be on the right. And if there's certain, certain ways it is. And so the numbers add up to 7 on opposite sides, and then the order of the pips are the same order. But I don't think there's a convention for how the pips are. So like the 3s might be slanted one way for one manufacturer and slanted the other way for another manufacturer. So someone was pointing out that, hey, these aren't standard dice, but I don't think that's a thing. I just, as long as the opposite sides add up to 7 and they're in the right order, I don't think the direction of the pips. Looking at my video, and I just paused it on this spot, there's a place where I have 3 6s lined up and then 3 2s on top. And one of the 6s is rotated, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't think there's a standard for that. I think the 2s will always be to the right of the 6 or on the, however it draws out. But I don't think there's any standard for the pips need to be arranged this way or arranged this way. As long as the opposite sides add up to 7, it doesn't matter. And I think that's just a manufacturing thing. Some of the other questions I had was, no, I don't think that one is made of ivory. I think it's just really, really old and yellowed. And the great big dice, the red one, that is a Vegas die. It's an old Vegas die. And the pips are, and I know they still do this, but they're like hollowed out and then filled with paint to exactly make it weigh the same on each side. So like, the pips are smaller on the 6 side, and the 1 pip is really big because they wanted the paint to weigh the same on each side. But yeah, that is a legitimate dice, and it is from Vegas. But a lot of those dice are just from board games. They're from Yahtzee. They're from Clue or whatever needed dice. And like I said, I don't think there's a convention for, hey, the 6 has always got to be 2 rows this way, but not 2 rows this way. I don't think that's a thing. And I kind of Googled it, and all I could find is like, well, they even talked about some dice have the 3s lined up vertically instead of at a slant. So right there, it's saying there's not a standard for that. So opposite sides add up to 7, and then there's like a certain order. If you unfold the dice a certain way, it's always going to be in a certain order. But the arrangement of the pips on the side, I don't think is any kind of convention. Yeah, so on the desk, the messy desk code, I did put the frog as a nod to K-Pro because I know she likes frogs. I had that frog with me, and I don't know if I would have gave it to her or not. I don't know, but I did have it with me in case I did go to the meetup in Wyoming, but that ended up not happening to me. I do have a lot of brooches. Yeah, I just have a lot of brooches. You should see my my jewelry section in my house, because I have necklaces. I'll go to art fair and I'll see a necklace and I'll just be like, hey, that's a really pretty necklace, and I'll buy it. And I end up like, my daughters and my daughters-in-law will come down and take them, and I'll be like, they're yours, it's a gift. I do have some vintage ones. I have a vintage necklace that plays a song from The Sound of Music, and it's like 60 years old and it still works. But yeah, if it catches my eye, I'll buy it. And I don't know, I just had brooches. The brooches are mostly like from Hobby Lobby, and they came with something else, but I like the stones. I'm trying to I want to get into resin and making stuff out of resin, and so I bought those with the intention of like popping the stones out to use in the resin. And so yeah, I have a lot of those brooches. They're just like, they're the kind you get at Hobby Lobby for $1.99. They're nothing special. Um, I think there is one. Let me. If you look at the video, first of all, you'll see the frog, and then right under the frog, you'll see a rose, and the rose has a gold stem on it. That is one brooch that I found deep in the forest while hiking in the Rockies, and it's just one of those weird things. And it was at a campsite, so someone might have been wearing it or whatever and dropped it. I found it with my metal detector, and so that one brooch, and it has been cleaned. I mean, when I found it, it had that like caked on dirt that you couldn't scrape off, so I had to very carefully clean that. So yeah, if you look at the video right under the frog, it's kind of a purplish red rose. Yeah, that is something I found, and it's just one of the weird random things I found in the mountains. And I got a couple. I've actually got kind of a collection, because there was a necklace I found, a box, a dime, like in the middle of nowhere. Where do these things come from? It's just weird. Um, and yes, above all of that, and I really do have a messy desk, so that's why I was cleaning it off and cleaning it, and finally I couldn't clean this one area off, and so I just threw that towel over it. But yeah, that's a monitor, but that hasn't been turned on in months. What else could I say about any of this? Let me zoom out here. The origami. The origami. There's a story behind that. And I can't recall the guy's name. I went to a seminar in Vegas. It was a 3-day seminar, and this is way back in 2005-ish, in that area. But I went to this seminar, and they asked me to man a table in the back, and there was like 20, 30 tables around the outside, and so they would have speakers, and in between speakers people would come back, and I can't even remember what my table sold, but one guy was doing origami, and people were they were lined up to get this guy's origami, and he would make these really fancy shapes, and it turned out, God, what was his name? Hitchens? Was it Hitchens? I'm sorry about the pause here, but this is driving me crazy. I don't think it was Christopher Hitchens. Anyway, was it that guy? Looks familiar, but I don't think that was him. Anyway, people were lined up to get this guy's origami, and the theme of this 3-day seminar. I mean, there was a lot of magicians there. There was the amazing Randy, Penn and Teller, the guys from MythBusters. So it was kind of this magician thing, and I did get to. It's weird because I was sitting at a round table with Penn and Teller, and it's weird hearing both of them talk, because in their stage act, the one guy never talks, Teller, but it's, he actually talked more than Penn Jillette, and but yeah, they're very outspoken, and they just like dominated the table, and also the guys from MythBusters were there, so I ate dinner with like a lot of these well-known people, and that's where I met my friend, and that's why I never say her name, because she is a bit of a celebrity, so if anyone finds out who she is, they'll pester me forever. But and she's a genius. She's just a bloody genius. And she actually, oh crap, I'm gonna pause for a second. Yeah, I would get a call right in the middle of this, and actually I'm way over, because I didn't want this to go for this long, but Yeah, so yeah, that's why I never say her name. Uh, but let's see, where was I? Dice monitor. Yes, I did find that in the dumpster. Yes, I am into antiques. No, I'm not into computers, even though like right now I probably, this room has over $1 million worth of inventory in it. A lot of that is tied up in our big equipment. We have a giant network core, and we have some IBM mainframes. One mainframe alone is worth like $250,000. Um, and then my budget is like $500,000 a year. So when I order all these, because I order all the little computers that we use, but I'm ordering them for the entire North American continent. So I got to, yeah, that's my budget. That's why people think I come home and they're like, "Hey, can you help me with this Photoshop?" Or, "Hey, I'm trying to set these security cameras up. You must be an expert at that." But anyway, that's it. Oh, the origami. Whoever it was a famous Australian talk show host, and I had no idea. I know he had his Australian money because the guy that was also manning the table next to me was like, "Hey, can I see some of your Australian money?" And he pulled it out because it's like plastic, and it's just funny because I'm sitting there going, "Why are what?" Because he was sitting right and we talked and stuff, and that's where I got the origami from. So I've had that for literally 15 years or whatever. And I got a whole little jar because he made a whole bunch of these flying pig origamis for the Amazing Randy. And I grabbed four, one for each of my kids. And I think I grabbed one extra one, but I have this little glass thing at home with all the origami in it. And that's where the origami came from. And yes, it's kind of hard to tell because, like I said, it's 15 years old. It's kind of unfolded a little bit, but that is a flying pig. Do I have it? It's up here still. Yeah, you can't tell that's a flying pig. uh, the teacup is a very old antique from China. It's an actual Chinese teacup. And the nesting dolls, I know they're really common, but that came from my wife's side of the family, like their great grandmother. So it looks like a common one, but yeah, it's probably about 100 years old. Um, and then the vintage Tinkerbell figurine. Uh, anyway, that's what I have. I'm going to stitch these together, and I got to take care of the phone call I just got. But those are just some of the things, and yeah, it's hard doing two things at one time, and it's hard to concentrate on anything when you're thinking about what was that next letter I got to do and stuff. Oh man. And I've tried to blink Morse code when I talked before, and I don't know how those guys did it. But yep, I should get going, and you all take care. This is my reply to the reaction to the Clue video. So y'all take care, and we'll see you all later.